Like they advertised one match by crashing a car into one of the wrestlers. Not a total victory of Russia, which now we're seeing. He goes on.
Gigantic bag of flaccid dicks. Sorry, continue.
Which, when you open them up, you find out that they're all cockroaches inside.
Yeah. No, I don't know if anybody else is ever going to laugh this hard at anything we say.
We can actually both look out my window right now and see some very pretty yellow flowers that I'm going to be eradicating. This is a Geek History of Time,
where we connect nerdery to the real world. I'm Ed Blaylock. I'm a new father of a now 10-month-old son, and I have been a geek since as long as I can remember. One of my defining geek moments was probably reading The Fellowship of the Ring in the backseat of my parents' car on a trip to Florida when I could not have been more than about 6 years old. I did not really comprehend very much of it, but what I was able to pick up had me spellbound.
Nice. I'm Damian Harmony. I am a Latin teacher, a former social science teacher. I am a father of a 9-year-old almost. He's going to be 9 in 3 days.
Holy crap.
Right? Yeah. That's what, 100-month-old?
Yeah.
I don't math well.
Yeah.
And I'm also the father of a 6-year-old.
108-month-old,
yeah. I'm also the father of a 6-year-old, 6.5-year-old, who is 78 months old, who's super into D&D.
Nice.
He does it so that he can then play geeky games on my phone.
Okay.
She does it because she loves it. So I've been a geek for quite some time. I can remember geeking out over all the presidents.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a book called The Big Book of U.S. Presidents.
Oh, awesome.
And it went from Washington to Reagan.
Okay.
And it stopped there because he was the current president.
At that time.
And I still have this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to take it up on the shed on my parents' farm when we lived in Florida. And that was my getaway.
Okay.
And one day the kids on the back of the bus, in Florida, all the kids get on the bus and what have you, and based on what grade you're in, you sit in certain sections of the bus.
Okay. All right.
They took my book and, oh, you're so smart, and then they started quizzing me on it. And they asked me, it was a rural community, so getting to school was a long drive. They asked me close to 100 questions, and I missed only 7.
Wow.
And some I even answered before they finished asking. So this is the stuff of legend amongst them.
Yeah,
and,
I can believe it.
Yeah.
How many of them were any good at reading? I'm sorry to that.
Well, many of them.
This was North Florida.
Yeah, this is North Central Florida,
yeah.
the taint of Florida.
Yeah.
So it's
special part of the country.
Yeah,
right there. My parents lived there for a couple of years.
Yeah, Levy County.
Oh, nice.
So it was good stuff. So yeah, I geeked out about that, and then I spent a lot of time in that library reading a lot of books about like the biographies of Eleanor Roosevelt and Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
cool.
That's the geek I am.
All right, very cool. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you know about giant robots?
Narrow the field for me, because
okay.
Yeah.
What do you know about Battletech?
So what I know about Battletech is going to be like not canon. It's going to be like Diane canon. So
okay.
or it's going to be partial projection canon.
Yeah. Ooh. Well done.
Thank you. I worked at a place called.
One for you.
Thank you. I worked at a place called Virtual World.
Hell yes.
In Walnut Creek.
Okay.
I wore a lab coat.
Mm-hmm.
I had a call sign. My call sign was Shaft.
Bitchin' Camaro.
You damn right.
That's awesome. All right.
And I took people on missions in Battletech.
Yes.
So the things I know, like you'll say words probably, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was the color of the ankle.
Thing there,
yeah. So that's what I know of Battletech.
Okay.
We sold books. We sold Battletech books.
Yeah.
And there were a few people who were really into them.
Yeah.
But that's about as much as I know.
Okay.
So it's going to be similar to, what do you know about Star Wars? Oh, well, I played the Pod Racer game.
Nice. Yeah.
It'll be about that.
Yeah. Okay.
So are we doing a Battletech episode?
We're doing a Battletech episode.
Nice.
We are in fact doing one.
Cool. I can tell you the best kind of vehicles to run if you're in pea soup fog or in the arena.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we might talk a little about that at some point.
I got pretty far in a tournament once with a Loki Prime, and people were just shocked that I was able to use a Loki Prime that well.
Well, yeah. Because it was kind of a...
It was garbage, but I found the way to use it to make a spin. It was good.
So the reason I ask that is well. Now I gotta ask the other question.
Uh-huh.
How much do you know about the concept of Yellow Peril?
Oh, a fair amount. I had
Okay.
a social science teacher in 8th grade who made us read a bunch of articles on how the Japanese were taking over economically.
And
This is the early 90s.
Okay, early.
Before
Yes.
Hirohito died.
Okay.
And
Right.
so
So-
I know a fair amount from those readings.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
actually, it would have had to be late 80s because Hirohito died in 89.
Oh, he
I
did?
just
Okay.
got that confirmed in
Okay.
research I actually did.
Sure, sure.
But anyway, because the two are intertwined, and the background lore, the thesis I'm working from here is that the background lore for Battletech is the Cold War under Reagan, but focusing on Yellow Peril rather than the USSR.
Okay.
So, first, let's kind of go into a primer about what Battletech was and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds
good. Battletech was first printed in 1984. Okay, the game was first released in midway through Reagan.
So it was a game before it was a book.
The novels were released a little bit like almost simultaneously.
Okay.
Very following very closely on the heels. But it started out, its very first existence was as a tabletop war game.
Okay.
Okay. And this is midway through Reagan. And just to kind of remind you about what we're talking about as far as the state of the world at that time, this is the LA Olympics is 84.
Okay.
Which the Soviets boycotted.
Right.
Because we had boycotted 80.
Right.
Because of Afghanistan. Which, at that time, it was the Soviets who were invading and, getting their asses kicked and realizing it was a massive war of attrition that they were never going to be able to win because nobody has ever been able to win because it's fucking Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, they felt left out. They didn't have a Vietnam. And they're like, we need a Vietnam.
We need a Vietnam. And so
they got one.
So they invaded Afghanistan. They got their Vietnam. 84 is the year that the Libyan embassy in London was besieged because a police officer was shot during a demonstration outside. The Ethiopian famine was in full swing.
That's right, because Live Aid came the next year.
Live Aid, Band Aid by Bob Geldof was 84. Live Aid was the following year. And on August 11th...
Oh, wait, Iran-Contra was going on that year, too.
Yes.
Just,
Yes, just throw that one in there. Yes, it was, as a matter of fact. And just to give you an idea of the level, the tone of the Cold War, one of my favorite moments of Cold War history happened during 1984. August 11th, Ronnie Reagan is going to hold a press conference. And he's standing in front of the White House press corps. And he says to the assembled White House press corps, I have just signed legislation to outlaw the Soviet Union. Bombing begins in 5 minutes. Now, this was intended to be an offhand, ha ha ha, here I am, president, most powerful man in the world. The trouble was, he said it, he didn't realize it was a hot mic.
Oh, no.
and it caused
we almost died.
It caused a very brief but very intense level of massive panic across the entire Soviet bloc.
Oh, wow.
Until they realized that, wait, nothing's actually been mobilized.
Right.
But there were about 3 minutes during which
they're hovering on the buttons.
The neural net, as it were, of the Soviet defense system was firing everything off, trying to communicate about, oh my God, we got to move everything. What the hell we got to do? Oh,
that dick.
Oh, the son of a bitch is telling a joke. So yeah, just to
Okay.
So that's where we were in the Cold
wow.
War at that point in '84. So now to talk about BattleTech.
Okay.
This is the world in which this then got printed, and it is an immense, sprawling universe with this really long, very rich fictional history, which basically means it's complete crack for me.
Right.
This is you've heard me talk about this shit about other
with
settings,
Warhammer
other stuff with Warhammer.
Yeah.
This is like, oh my god, let me find a vein. How do I get into this?
This doesn't have a sad ending,
You know,
like Proud Boys taking it over, does it?
No.
Good.
No, thankfully,
Good. Yeah.
thank God, no. And yeah,
Proud Boys, stay away from this one.
Yeah. Well, you know what.
That commercial break was brought to you by my daughter.
Yeah. So yeah, about the Proud Boys thing in Battletech. Yeah, guys, stay away from it. It actually involves a great deal more math than Warhammer, so I think many of you might have more problems with it. Anyway.
Yeah. It's also kind of a form of masturbation, so they probably don't want to do it.
They probably
anyway.
don't want to. Yeah. Yeah, so much I could say about that. So anyway, the original edition of the game was set in the 31st century, in which a couple of centuries of warfare had taken a high-tech interstellar society just shy of Star Trek. Not quite Star Trek level of, the future looks like an iPod, but, really very, everybody has a high standard of living thanks to, technology.
Like we'd hit utopia.
It
was just over the next bridge.
It was a very realistic view. I give them credit for politically and sociologically. It's a more realistic thing than a utopia, but it was generally a very high technological society. And a couple of centuries of this warfare, by the time the game opens up, has turned it into a weird kind of dark age where there are these vast gulfs of technology, where you have wars being fought with these, 3-story tall
mechas,
mechs, fighting against each other that are powered by fusion reactors and use particle projection cannons and all this stuff, and where ordinary people, are having to hunt for food with spears if they live on the wrong kind of planet, and they'll take what they've hunted and take it home and cook it in a microwave oven. This weird, like, there are these bizarre kind of gaps in how technology operates, and even between regions on the same planet. You'll have where the local ruler lives. He's going to live in what we would consider a modern kind of home with modern conveniences and electricity, running water, and fascinating high-tech gadgets beyond that.
Sure.
Whereas the ordinary people of his planet might live in a standard of living or a style of living largely comparable to the 17th century.
Okay.
Only they have large tractors that they have to work to try to maintain, but otherwise everything else that they work with is bare bones, lots of handmade kind of things,
Amish.
So, kind of. That's an interest. I hadn't thought of that comparison, but yeah, that would kind of work. And so, feudalism is dominant. So you have these powerful houses that control these vast regions of the galaxy, and we'll get to talking to them more in a minute. But there are these successor states. And I'll explain about why they're called that, in which these nobles control whole planets. And the baron who controls a planet has to answer to a duke who controls a march, who then has to answer to it's this feudal kind of system.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
So post-apocalyptic is a genre. It's a popular genre. Very often, it seems to be a way to get to talk about feudal systems.
Okay.
Do you think the fact that this is feudalism, but now we've got robot tanks. Do you think the feudalism thing is a trope that's just easy to grab at, or are they trying to make a point about?
I think I think in this case, any commentary that they wind up making was a secondary result of what they were going for. I genuinely think and actually it's good that you asked that question, because the next thing I've got in my notes has to be talking about the rationale for feudalism in an interstellar setting, a la Foundation. Now, are you familiar with? I presume you're familiar with at least the titles of the Foundation books by Isaac Asimov.
No.
Okay. All right.
I have weird gaps in my literature.
All right. So I have known about the Foundation series since I was 12.
Okay.
And that's because every other science fiction nerd that I've spoken to who was at all literary told me, read Asimov.
Right.
For the love of God, fucking read Asimov. And I put it off.
Right.
And I put it up because it's Asimov, and I'm more of a Heinlein guy. I'm more of a thrilling yarns, blaster guns, space opera kind of guy. And everything I'd heard about Asimov was that he was more intellectual. Uh-huh. And finally, I decided, okay, I got to eat my broccoli, and I sat down and I read the first Foundation book. And here's the deal: teaching Latin as you do, and as we've mentioned before, that making you classicist adjacent, Foundation is going to light you up like a Christmas tree.
Okay.
Because Asimov did his research, and Foundation is a science fiction template for the fall of the Roman Empire.
Okay.
And the rebirth of Western civilization through feudalism, the dominance of the church, growth of trade and the middle class, and into He's
holding up a mirror to our history.
Yes, and psychohistory, which at this point is an aside from what I intended to talk about with this, but it's important to mention. He introduces the idea of psychohistory as a study of, look, we know how people behave. If we have powerful enough computers, we can predict, based on these patterns, how people are going to behave hundreds and thousands of years into the future, not on an individual scale, because in the model we're looking at, that would be like trying to predict how a quantum particle is going to...
Right.
We're looking at all of humanity.
The large movements.
The big picture we can predict. And so the first psychohistorian essentially finds a way to trick everybody into giving him the funds and the resources to establish a place where knowledge is going to be protected when the empire falls. Okay. And then that's the MacGuffin, and then everything goes from there. So now the reason I mentioned Foundation is because Foundation, to you reading it today, having read all of the other interstellar empire stories that you have, Star Wars, Dune,
no, just Star Wars.
Okay, all right. So, but being exposed
all the Star Wars.
Okay, yeah. But being exposed to science fiction tropes and seeing all this stuff in our media, the idea of an interstellar empire and all of that stuff is.
Well, I mean, I just saw the movie by what's his face? Oh Lord, what's his name? The guy who directed Dune.
Lynch.
Yeah, David Lynch. I was going to say Daniel Lloyd Webber.
Very different. Very
the spice
different.
will control you.
But by Lynch.
Yeah. So I saw that. So that's just as good as reading the books. I mean, it's fully comprehensive. Sting was in it. I know. Yeah, I get it.
I will kill him. Here's the deal. I'm going to admit right now.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah, no, it inspired me to watch Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
all the sandworms.
Yeah. Nice. But as somebody who really loves the books, I also really love that movie.
And normally, that's a gulf that most don't jump.
Yeah, normally, if you really love the books, you're like, David Lynch needs to burn in hell.
Right.
He's committed heresy against Herbert. And all
sure.
I don't think so. I think it's a great movie. It captures all the main themes. But that whole idea of an empire in space with a feudal structure was something that Asimov created. Okay. And his rationale for it, basically condensed and kind of spun out a little bit, is that in order to maintain administrative and military control across vast distances, the feudal structure of centralized individual, giving large scale, this is what we're going to do orders, and then sending those orders out and having somebody who is in effect a local despot, then making those decisions and doing things locally, and having that kind of the dispersed power structure involved in feudalism. Yeah. According to Herbert and anybody who, or not Herbert, Asimov, and then Herbert and anybody who decides to follow this particular model.
Well, and the local PTA. I mean, that's how you get the phone calls out.
Yeah, phone tree. Kind of thing. the rationale is that over those vast distances, and especially if you're dealing with a situation where there is any kind of time gap involved in space travel, that's the way to get that stuff done.
Okay.
Okay. And, if you're looking for a way to build a setting for a space opera, that's a good enough rationale.
Sure.
I mean, if you really want to get into sociological studies of, what's the best way to do all this, we can argue that forever. But for the purposes of these stories, that's what they do.
Sure.
And so, to give you the shortest summary of the history of this universe that I can, humanity began expanding out from Earth in the Battletech universe in fits and starts outward from Earth, utilizing a jump drive starting in the early 22nd century. There was first the Terran Alliance, which was ruled from Terra, but was, all the planets that had been colonized were, under that authority.
Right.
Then the Terran Hegemony exerted control over colonies, and both of these powers exerted control over the colonies mostly for the benefit of Earth.
Okay.
And then there was a long period of conflict between interstellar powers. So these individual colony worlds gradually formed their own little confederacies and their own little, federations and whatever you want to call them. And those conflicts led to the formation of the Star League in the 26th century.
This sounds an awful lot like the end of World War I, League of Nations.
A little bit.
The Age of Empire.
A little bit with an important caveat there. The Star League acted as a sort of a hybrid imperial authority and federal authority. So the individual states of the Star League had autonomy, mostly, within their own borders. But anytime there was a conflict between them, they had to answer to the imperial authority of the Star League.
So it's what the League of Nations meant to be.
What the League of Nations meant to be, but the League of Nations never had its own army.
Right, okay.
And
so
the Star League there was a Star League Royal Army. Okay, it had real honest-to-God enforcement.
Okay.
And it had the military might to enforce agreements between these subsidiary states. Okay. And the Star League also oversaw the enforcement of the Ares Accords, which become important because they are the Battletech universe equivalent of the Geneva Conventions. And now during these very early conflicts between these...
How is Ares spelled?
A-R-E-S.
Okay, so it's not the ram. It's,
it is
the god of war.
The Greek god of war.
Okay.
Yeah. And so during these conflicts, these conflicts that they describe in the history of the setting, way back in the history of the setting, 500 years before or more, before the beginning of the actual game, were these powers fighting amongst each other, and these were brutal wars that involved the use of nuclear weapons, large-scale, massive destruction,
planet killers,
and or at least continent killers. And so the Ares Accords were put in place and then enforced by the Star League to say, no, that if you do that, you've gone beyond the pale, and you're going to face everybody is now going to come after you.
Okay,
and it was a way to limit. What it was that combatants were going to do. Okay, and under the Star League, there was real, no kidding, enforcement kind of power.
So mutually assured destruction with a really strong referee.
With a really strong referee, yeah. And so the first battle mech, according to this alternate history, was invented in the year 2439 under the Terran Hegemony, or hegemony. I've never figured out which syllable I need to stress there. And for several centuries, the hegemony and then the League held this technological edge. Now the great houses got mechs. They managed to reverse engineer some of the technology, steal some of the rest of the technology. But the hegemony and then the Star League were always like one generation ahead of the noble houses in the mecha that they were able to build, the battle mechs they were able to build. And so that really enabled the League to act as that enforcer, because if you broke one of the accords or you decided, well, they're not looking, we're going to go steal this planet from our neighbor that we agreed was going to be theirs, or, we're going to do this other, skullduggery, underhanded thing. It was like, no, they're going to come for you, and they've got, Gen 5 tech, and you're on Gen 3.5. And so, no, you're not going to get away with it. So they acted in enforcement.
Okay.
And so that led to a period of comparative stability until...
Now, let me back you up just
yeah.
a sec. What did the first mecha look like? Was it a mad cat? Was it...
It was a semi-humanoid... Well, it was humanoid. It had 2 arms, 2 legs. It didn't really have a head.
Okay.
To see the illustration of the mech in question, it had a big dome where the head would be that didn't look really very head-like.
Okay.
But it was humanoid. It did not have hand actuators. It had
Those were
just
cannons of some sort.
It just had guns in its arms.
Bird legs or human legs?
Humanoid legs.
Legs.
It was squat-looking, really tall.
Square.
Squat, squarish.
Okay. So, like, did it have a cannon mounted on its shoulder?
No.
It no missile bays mounted on it.
No, there wasn't anything. There wasn't anything that looked like any of the iconic mechs that we see in the artwork from the game.
Right,
era.
right.
This is something. The Mackie was the name of the battle mech.
Okay.
It didn't actually, as far as I was able to figure out, the Mackie was not actually the rules for the first battle mech weren't actually written up until several editions into the game.
Okay.
This was just part of the history.
Gotcha.
So stop me if you've heard this before.
Sure.
But a weak child emperor, the title that the leader of the Star League held was technically First Lord, but Emperor is the better historical parallel, became enthralled by an unscrupulous advisor in the mid-28th century. The family that had controlled the Star League was the Cameron family. It was the Cameron dynasty.
Okay.
And the last Lord, Ian Cameron, fell under the sway of Stefan Amaris, who was an outworld ruler from the fringes of known space, who managed to lure the Emperor into his clutches and became a favorite of his, and then started a civil war in which the League's military overthrew the unscrupulous advisor.
Sounds like Russia.
A little bit.
Sounds like Imperial Russia.
A little bit like Imperial Russia.
Yeah.
A little bit like Romanovs. And after 14 years of fighting all over the inner sphere is when that finally happened. But that was not before the unscrupulous advisor had himself murdered Ian Cameron and ended the Cameron dynasty. Okay. So the last legitimate ruler, or the last legitimate claimant to the title of First Lord, has now been murdered. And in the wake of the war, the leader of the army wanted to try to reestablish the Star League, but there was not, as I said, a surviving heir to the Cameron dynasty, and the leaders of the great houses all started jockeying to take the title for themselves. So the rulers of House Davian, House Kurita, House Merrick, House Lau.
Okay, so
here's where
I remember colors.
Yes.
Kurita was green, Merrick was black, Lau might have been green, Kurita might have been red, but it was a rusty red.
Okay.
And this is all like Sega Genesis style graphics.
Oh, yeah.
So the colors weren't all that great. But because I remember if you went Merrick black for your mech, you were kind of a dick because damage shows up as black.
Yeah.
And so you're like, it's kind of
a prick move.
Yeah.
So
I always went with white and Lau.
Yeah.
Because I like the light color with the green.
With the green.
Yeah.
So yes, Lau generally is associated with green. The heraldic. So we're talking about heraldic colors rather than that. Kurita is associated with red. Merrick is associated with purple. In the board game, Davian is red and gold. Is their heraldic colors. Kurita is just straight up blood red. Steiner is blue. I already mentioned Lau.
We had
Merrick.
a blue, but I don't remember it being called Steiner, but I just might not remember that too.
Okay. So in any event, those were the successor states. And the rulers of each of these individual vast noble houses all started jockeying to try to take the title of First Lord. The ruler of Kurita, in particular, in the lore, is characterized as having been convinced that essentially by divine right he's the one who should take over that role.
Now, this is still the knockoff on Imperial Russia. These are all vying for Imperial Russia.
These are all vying to take the role of, I think more of it like the Holy Roman Emperor.
Okay.
To kind of give,
sure, my
own early modernist kind of comparison.
But they're still within the context of what you were talking about, the child emperor who got duped and then murdered.
Who got duped and then murdered. And so all of the leaders of these houses immediately start, squabbling. Skirmishes start breaking out between them.
Like you do.
And disgusted, the commander of the army sent a message out to all of the royal army forces, all of the Star League military forces.
Okay.
And all at once, they packed up all their dependents, they packed up all their gear, all their weaponry, all their machinery, and they left. They disappeared.
The army did.
The army.
Okay.
And all of their dependents and everybody affiliated with them disappeared out into unexplored space with all that wonderful high tech and all that political legitimacy.
Okay.
Just literally folded out into space, because that's technically how the jump drive works. They just jumped away. Now, it's important to note the army leader who made this decision and got all of his, well, not all, but nearly all of his units to follow him had the last name Kerensky. Now, if you know anything about the early Soviet Union, that's going to ring some bells.
A little bit.
So Kerensky gathers the whole Star League army up and says, peace, out.
Okay.
And literally, gone.
And they're gone.
Okay, they disappear, and nobody knows where they've gone.
Okay.
And in the context of the universe, the figure of Kerensky for common ordinary people kind of takes on this King Arthur kind of,
he'll return when we get it right.
Disappeared king, kind of context. And so the great houses who were squabbling over who was going to run the Star League then became the successor states. And because there was nobody there to enforce the Ares conventions, they blasted everybody into nearly into a new dark age.
Okay.
Before finally settling into a couple of centuries of constant low-intensity skirmishing, punctuated by occasional real wars.
Okay.
Okay. So on the borders between these different powers on a galactic scale, there's always chevauchés raiding. There's always something going on.
Okay.
But it's what we nowadays would refer to as low-intensity conflict.
Sure.
And it's once in a while...
Border skirmish.
Yeah, and once in a while somebody manages to get enough of a force together and get sneaky or smart or lucky enough to manage to actually say, no, I'm starting like a large-scale invasion, and a war actually breaks out.
Right.
Okay. And so that's where the original box set introduced us to the universe in the middle of the 31st century.
So how much box text was that to know that universe? Was it the first third of a book? Was it,
I'm trying to remember
8 paragraphs?
What I just wad at you is spread out over a bunch of different sources. So what you would get when you open the box was an explanation that there used to be the Star League. The Star League fell apart because of corruption and people being shitty.
Right.
And now the great houses are all competing to try to see who's going to become the lord of a new Star League. But nobody has the resources to do it really. And here we are. It is an age of constant low intensity conflict, and here we are. And so now you have an excuse to take your little pieces of plastic and shoot at the other guy's little pieces of, actually in this case it was pewter.
Oh, wow.
Because it was still the 80s and you could still get lead pewter. Thank you for fucking that up, Congress. But anyway, sorry, I have strong feelings about this.
About getting to handle lead.
Well, here's the deal. Within the context of a mod, 28 millimeter model, the amount of lead exposure you have is bupkis.
Okay.
Like within the alloy of pewter that you're handling, the lead exposure to you as the guy working with it, unless you spent hours every day sanding miniatures without a mask on, like for 20 years,
Okay.
There was, I mean, handling one and painting it and, cutting little bits off and doing stuff. There's no exposure.
Okay.
But what happened was in around 89 or 90, I want to say it might have been later, there were new EPA regulations approved in regard to the use of lead that didn't actually have anything to do with the hobby industry.
Okay.
But were written in such a way that miniatures now had to be made with lead-free pewter. Lead-free pewter means tin.
Oh, is pewter just lead and tin?
Yeah.
Oh,
pewter is
okay.
an alloy of lead and tin. And it's mostly tin. There's not a lot of lead involved. But there's enough lead to make it bendable. So if you drop a model and an arm
it doesn't
bends,
break.
you can bend it back and it's not going to snap off.
Right.
Okay.
Tin will snap.
Tin snaps all the goddamn time.
What about
as the miniature nut of the two of us? Let me tell you, getting the opportunity to work with a pre-lead ban miniature is something I look forward to because everything about doing it is so much easier. Okay.
Now I don't know much. I only know what I know from Rome's history.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't have, I know plenty about Roman wine. I've never had wine. Yeah. So none of my knowledge is practical.
Okay.
I know that bronze is a soft metal.
Yes.
It is obviously not as soft as pewter.
No.
Would it crack and snap instead of bend?
Bronze?
Yes.
No. Generally speaking, no.
It would just bend.
Bronze would mostly bend.
Well, then why not make...
It's a good question.
Because that's tin and copper.
Because it's tin and copper, and copper is expensive enough, always was expensive enough,
right?
That wasn't... the hardness, the nature of the hardness, I don't know enough about the metallurgy, but basically it's just that bronze would be a very different, more difficult metal to work with.
Oh, okay.
Bronze is great for casting stuff, like casting bells and casting swords, for that matter. And actually, I could go into a whole sword nerd thing about Bronze Age swords actually being good enough to shave with, as far as the
incredibly sharp.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
wicked, easy to sharpen back up.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to, or you could just melt them down and cast a new one out of them, which we actually know. And now I have to say it because this is just kind of too awesome not to. In Irish and other Celtic sagas about heroes, we have these stories of these heroes carrying 3 and 4 and 5 swords into battle. And for a long time, everybody was like, why the hell would you do that? That's a waste of resources. What on earth? What we figured out from people actually doing reenactment and recreating bronze weapons is a bronze sword is really awesome for about the first 3 or 4 hits.
Yes.
It will cut like a razor for the first 3 or 4 hits. And then
it's a cudgel.
Then it's close to being a cudgel.
Yeah.
So and what you can actually do is, drop that one, pick up a new one. And the thing is, when the battle is over, you go back, you pick up all the old bronze weapons that everybody dropped, you melt them down and you recast them.
Wow.
And you now have, they probably did. Is kind of what we're talking about. Is you probably did see guys with the wealth to do it carrying at least 3 and 4 swords into a battle to always have a sharp one.
Yeah, because I go back to the Romans and they mass-produced swords and they made them perfect for stabbing. They didn't go for slashing because slashing is way too much energy, leaves you way too open. Stabbing you can do right next to a tower shield and just keep walking forward. And now you're literally, the amount of muscular energy you're putting in, way less at risk.
Well, and you're part of a vast machine of
and it enables skill.
Shields.
It enables you to be that vast machine. Well, and you don't have to really worry about it getting dull because you just keep stabbing.
You just keep stabbing.
Yeah.
Just keep stabbing. Just keep stabbing. So now that we've had that big, long...
dalliance.
Dalliance.
So you have miniatures
back, that
you can shoot at each other.
You have your miniatures that you can set on the table and have blast each other. Now, it should be noted, as you already pointed out, this is a variation on post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
The post-apocalyptic theme, and in this case, it's post-apocalypse mashed up with space opera to get this particular kind of stew. And so back to stuff that we've talked about in previous episodes, post-apocalypse stuff was a big deal during this time period because we were standing on the edge of a precipice where, God knows.
We might be heading toward apocalypse.
We might try to outlaw the Soviet Union and begin bombing in 5 minutes, so...
So when we did the episode on 40K, that was an outgrowth of Thatcherism.
Yes.
Thatcherism starts in 79.
Yeah.
This is 84.
Yeah.
Clearly, the Americans who'd made Battletech had played 40K.
Or they knew of it, certainly. Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking because now Thatcherism and Reaganism are very close.
They're really close together.
And you've basically got this idea of guys in hypered armor.
Oh yeah.
So now it's just the next step. It's an Americanized version of the British.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the interesting thing is to kind of talk about that a little bit more. There is this used future from Star Wars kind of element involved, where the battle mechs that you're throwing at each other are going to be, for the pilots running them, their family heirlooms.
Okay, which is almost
the mech was built 300 years ago.
This is almost exactly the quote that you said about 40K.
Yeah. And so that element is definitely there.
Okay,
but what's interesting to me is there was this much more Buck Rogers. Adventurous kind of the grim, oh my god, this is so horrible, we're ruled by a bunch of fascists, this sucks, the universe is dark and awful and terrible.
It's American fascism. It's much more colorful.
It's much more colorful.
That boot could be mine.
Yes. I could in fact be the noble in the big giant walking tank,
stamping the face into eternity.
Forever.
Real quick, Buck Rogers, the TV show, had come out by this point too.
And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because that's part of what I'm talking about.
Call me Mr. Segway.
Yeah, So we have 5 successor houses.
Okay. Again,
successor states ruled by the great houses.
Let's see if I remember.
Okay.
Merrick, Kurita,
Lau,
Steiner, and hang on.
I don't have my jacket.
Davian.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right, so I'm going to start by talking about House Lau.
Okay.
So House Lau rules the Capellan...
Laos,
kind of. Rules the Capellan Confederation. Okay. And now when we talk about the name of the state of each one of these, in a couple of cases they refer to the region, the stellar region of space that they're based around. And so House Lau has its capital around the Star of Capella.
Okay.
So it's a Capellan Confederation. And this was designed to be a culture heavily built around imagery and concepts out of Imperial China.
Okay.
Song, Tang, Qing dynasties.
Okay.
And Song, Tang, Qing is an important point that I'll get back to in a moment. Now, so that's the cultural and aesthetic kind of look that they have for that house. But politically, it's governed as a Stalinist, Maoist, authoritarian state with a Soviet-style secret police called the Maskirovka, constant intrusive surveillance, heavy-handed bureaucracy. And this is where we get back to Song, Tang, Qing dynasty. All of it wrapped in this cloak of Neo-Confucianism from those dynasties in Chinese history.
Will oppress you with a serene smile.
Yes, we'll oppress you with a serene smile, and we will impress upon you the importance of how you need to do this, because you are a cog in the greater system.
The celestial bureaucracy demands this.
Yes. So that's
all right.
Right. So now I'm gonna reiterate a couple of things here. Remember, Stalinist, Maoist, massive secret police, constant surveillance, constant intrusive government control of individual rights.
Have we ever not, as a culture, confessed by accusation?
that isn't why I was bringing that up, but it's interesting to bring that up.
Yeah.
But based on perceptions of the day, that was
right.
The USSR.
Oh,
That was our dark mirror.
The Sino-Soviet alliance.
Yeah, the Sino-Soviet alliance. Now, then we look at House Merrick.
Okay.
Which was referred to, the state that it ruled was the Free Worlds League. And now what's interesting is the culture in House Merrick was a hodgepodge of Balkan European, Greek, Persian, and Turkish elements.
So Eastern Mediterranean.
Eastern Mediterranean.
Or Old Ottoman.
Yeah, well, Eastern Mediterranean and Ottoman. Kind
Right.
of roll them all.
Right. Well, at one point the Ottoman was.
The Ottoman,
yeah.
yeah.
They just
But-
put their feet up and relax.
Yeah, pretty much. Nice. Well done. now that house ruled over a fractious and chaotic confederation of smaller interstellar states,
Balkan.
like the Balkans,
Right.
with a very chaotic and fractious parliament.
Greek and Turkish.
Yes, Greek and Turkish. within the setting, the Free Worlds League, citizens of the Free Worlds League were very proud of the fact that they had the oldest continuous interstellar parliament, and they pointed to themselves as being, truly a representative democracy kind of thing. Now, what's interesting about that, of course, is that they have this chaotic, fractious parliament, and then over it we have House Merrick, who runs the whole thing based on a state of emergency decree that gets renewed every couple of years by that fractious parliament, or every so often they have a massive civil war until another Merrick manages to win and they have the state of emergency redeclared.
Okay.
So that's House Merrick.
Okay.
House Steiner.
Okay.
They're the EU in space.
Okay.
They rule over the Lyran Commonwealth, based around
Lyra.
And Steiner is the wealthiest of the successor states.
Okay.
They have all the money. They have all the merchants. They are the house that is the most business friendly and the most the most regulated capitalistic house.
Okay.
And they have and they were fortunate in those fractious wars, that they survived with the largest surviving industrial base.
Okay.
And so they're heavily influenced by the Holy Roman Empire in early Germany.
Sure.
Okay. And so they're ruled over by essentially a figure who is much like the Holy Roman Emperor or Empress.
Right.
Because they were the one house at the outset of the game. They were the one house that was ruled by a woman.
Okay. Frederica the Great.
Yeah, Frederica the Great, Katrina Steiner. Yeah. And so, and then, had fairly powerful nobles. Now, within the fluff of the game, Steiner was seen as dangerous because they had the most heaviest mechs.
Okay.
So the joke was that you run into a lance of 2 Atlases and 2 Marauder 2s, which for anybody who knows the game, those are 2 of the heaviest varieties of mech in the game. They're both 100-ton gigantic behemoth war machines.
The Zangiefs of
Yes, perfect. Yeah. And you run into those 4 mechs, and you report back to your superiors. Yeah, we ran into a recon lance from House Steiner. That was like all the heavyweight stuff all the time.
They had just the biggest and best.
Yeah. And while they had the biggest and the best stuff, their generals got their positions because of their social rank rather than knowing their stuff. So it was Prussian, that kind of Prussian. Yeah. And then we have House Kurita.
Okay.
The Draconis Combine around the star Draco.
Just the name itself sounds Japanese.
You're right on the money.
All right. And their color was blood red, you said?
Blood red.
Like a certain dot on a flag?
Crimson, yes, precisely.
Okay.
With a black dragon coiled within the red
I remember
disc.
that.
Yes.
I remember that.
One of the most iconic. I mean, if you got to look at the aesthetics of the game, it was like, well, those guys look badass.
Right.
And so they are pre-war Imperial Japan. But the Emperor is also the Shogun. Okay. They've
combined things. Yeah.
They never let go of samurai culture.
Sure.
The Emperor is the Shogun. They still have feudal daimyo, and they lift for House Kurita. They lifted everything straight out of feudal Japanese history.
So it's like Tokugawa updates.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Or Sengoku Jidai, Age of the Country at War. Stuff just picked up and
add tanks to it.
Add gigantic walking robots. Now, they also have secret police. But their secret police are ninja.
Okay.
Because ninja are badass. This is the 80s.
This is the 80s.
And we're going to get into that
to the point where there were 3 movies called Ninja.
You're getting ahead of me, but yes, that's a big thing. And again, because we're talking about it being pre-war Japan, it is a fascist state. It is explicitly, private industry working hand in glove,
corporatism,
or more like the government's hand is up the ass of private industry, or vice versa. You're never really sure which. Answering to a very powerful central government, in this case, ruled by the coordinator of the Draconis Combine.
Everybody for the good of the state.
Yeah, and there is no pretense of democracy, at all. They're just, period.
And the fact that it's in, the Draco system, I mean, Draconian. It's,
Oh, yeah.
Pretty easy jump.
Yeah, very easy.
Okay.
So then finally, I'm saving... I don't know if the best is the right word, but
Your
I'm
favorite?
saving these guys my favorite for last.
Okay.
House Davian,
Okay.
known as the Federated Sons.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is America.
Well, here's the thing. At first blush, they look like the British Empire in space.
Okay.
Because the founding family is explicitly stated to be descended from British or English British and French nobility.
Okay.
So those are the two main cultural influences. It's very, primarily very English looking on the surface. It has a stable and relatively liberal parliament.
Okay.
They have a free market but regulated economy. And it is stated very clearly that that the rulers of House Davian have a stated guarantee in the charter of the foundation of the Federated Sons that guarantees citizen freedoms, despite it being, in the end, a military-dominated state like all of the others. So now the thing is, all of the trappings look like Great Britain in space.
Sure.
The British Empire, right?
Right.
But if you think about it, it becomes clear it is, in fact, actually the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our...
Post-war.
Post-war.
Standing army.
Yeah.
The Iacocca.
Yeah. It's a pluralistic, diverse society. It's the strongest military power in the inner sphere. Combined arms. It's explicitly stated that they have the largest army in the setting.
Let me guess. Would I be accurate in saying that they have the second best of everything in the game, whereas other groups have have heavier mechs over here, lighter, more. Stealthy mechs over here, but the Americans are kind of just that middle
the moderate
fighter, the guile of the Street Fighter game.
Good comparison.
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
The designers of the game were a bit more circumspect than that, in that the technology base. The basic technology that everybody had access to was the same across the board. So, those two mechs that I mentioned earlier, the
Marauder
Atlas
and the Atlas,
the Atlas and the Marauder 2, were available to everybody, no matter what faction you decided to play.
Okay.
What would happen is, the factories for building these two, House Merrick has 4 factories, and I'm just pulling these figures at this point out of my hind end, but I could look it up.
Sure.
Because again, this setting is like catnip because they have all of this stuff written down. But Steiner has 4 factories that are able to build the Atlas, whereas Davian has 1. Lau doesn't have any. Kurita might have 2. And so everybody has access to everything, but you can look at somebody's army when they put it on the table and say, oh, that looks very fill in the blank, because if somebody is a fluff guy, me, they're going to look at, I can tweak it if I want to, or I can just say, no, I'm painting them all Davian army green, they're Davian whatever, I don't care. Or, I paint them bright red, they're the third Sword of Light.
Right.
Yes, they're all recon mechs. I don't care. I like the way Sword of Light goes. Screw you. And you could get away with that in canon.
Sure.
Because the designers of the game were smart enough to go, we're not going to make it so you can't do that.
Right.
Now, later on, there were particular models of mech that were like, this is a Lau only thing. This is a Kurita only thing, But at the beginning, it was, no, these are the
everybody
mechs.
Gets everything.
These are the mechs. Pick what you want to do. Go blast each other.
Right.
And so there wasn't this kind of, second best at everything.
Okay.
Slightly above average stats across the board.
Okay.
They didn't quite do that.
Okay.
Now, House Davian was characterized as being scientifically curious and advanced, while everybody else was in this semi-superstitious dark age. So if House Davian is the XB for the United States... Hold on a sec. My notes have decided to go wonky on me. I don't want the keyboard. There we go. So if House Davian is the XB for the U.S., who do you think is the principal antagonist here? 84, middle of the Cold War. We're about to start bombing in 5 minutes. Who would you immediately assume, based on the description I gave, is going to be characterized as the primary heavy?
The one that is the cutout for Imperial Russia.
Okay.
That's what I would assume, but what you'd said earlier was that it's Cold War, all that, but focused on Yellow Peril.
Yellow Peril.
So I'm going to say Krita.
Yes, and you're right. The thing is, you would assume if you were a social historian looking back on all of this, and somebody explained, okay, so these are who the 5 houses are, it would be, well, it's the Cold War, so obviously the crypto Soviets are the bad guys. No, it's not Lao. It's Krita. And the thing is, Lao comes across as the also-ran antagonist. In all of the in all of the early novels, the rulers of Lao are characterized as being these mustache-twirling villains who, succeed in the short run by being cunning and, backstabby, and then always wind up getting triple-crossed.
Right.
Or, they get foiled, and they wind up being a punching bag more often than a real threat. The real threat is Krita. The big bad is the coordinator of the Draconis Combine.
Okay.
Who has expansionist goals to conquer the rest of the Inner Sphere, and by conquering everybody else, become First Lord. Okay. And now we got to take a look back at the real world at this point, because wait, hold on. So we're standing on the precipice of, like, us and the Soviets literally blowing each other into atoms, and the heavy here is the Japanese. And so when we start the next episode, because we're getting close to the end of this one, we're going to look at what was going on in the zeitgeist at that time, in order to explain why that was.
Okay. So why are we? Because I look at a map of the world.
Yeah.
Why are we focused left in this game instead of right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Cool.
All right. So what are you taking away at this point? Now that I've laid the groundwork.
Sure. I still think a Loki Prime is a viable mech.
I got to get an explanation from you about how you did that. Because the thing is, I was a Vulture V4 guy, and I was also an unconventional
missile fun
choice.
guy.
Oh yeah. Well,
a lot of people went for that. A lot of people.
Not in the crowd I ran with. At that
Gotcha.
point.
Yeah.
So, but
because
anyway.
splash damage was wonderful. And you hit all those missiles on the right spot. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm thinking. It feels almost like the people who came up with this game also ran historians.
Okay.
Because I'm just seeing so many tropes of, let's go feudal, because it's easier to write fiction when you have 5 families. So you basically have only 5 personalities you have to deal with, because if in a feudal system, it's the personality at the top that matters. So any person that you take from that society can absolutely be a representation of the person at the top or whatever. You can write really easy palace intrigue in a feudal system.
Oh yeah.
I also with the Krita stuff, that they're fascist again feels a little, I don't know, science fiction-y lazy. Because the biggest bad guys we've ever faced have been fascists.
Yeah.
And
remain.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: if you don't take your full course of antibiotics,
the infection comes back.
Right. And stronger. Yeah. Sadly.
You wind up. Yeah.
Yeah. If you only take it until symptoms go away, this is what you get.
This is what you get.
But so it's a ready-made bad guy.
Yeah.
I say that fully aware of all the sins that Star Wars commits to all of this.
Oh yeah.
You have a princess in space. But
and she's a badass.
Oh, she's amazing.
But,
to me, she'll always be a general.
Yeah.
But you have so it just I'm interested in how they just have this like really rich, wonderful idea, and then they just kind of plug in these tropes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah. Well,
oh.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. That's an interesting take.
And it could be let's get to that so that we can get to the blowing each other up on the board thing.
I think that's a big part of it.
And that's very valid.
And I think there's also something to be said, and I'm going to get into this in our next episode about the zeitgeist of the moment.
Yeah.
I think
personalities driven.
Where we were at that point in the state of the world, I think had a lot to do with the mindset of the guys writing.
I also, I think back to Westerns.
Yeah.
And in the Westerns, you always have a shootout in the middle of town. The amount of actual shootouts that actually happen in the Old West
were remarkably small.
Yeah. Like, because it's stupid. Because why would I give you a chance to kill me?
Yeah.
So, it's much meaner.
No, the shootout of the OK Corral is notable because it was the aberration from the norm rather than the norm.
Right.
That's the reason it's so famous.
Yeah. And so, but cinematically, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, no.
You focus on one guy, you focus on the other guy. We all get involved in the drama. We're drawn into those two personalities. So it feels lazy in the same way that feels lazy. It's not necessarily lazy. It's just tropey.
Yeah, well,
and that's okay. That's fine.
I think I'm going to come around to tropes are not bad.
Fair.
All capitalized. Tropes are not bad.
Yeah.
Or first letters capitalized.
Yeah.
Which is itself a trope. Everything is a trope.
Yeah.
How you've managed to stay away from TV tropes and not have it rot your brain, I don't know. On the one hand, I want to congratulate you. On the other hand, you poor bastard, because it's amazing. But yeah, I think it's interesting to note where it was these guys were coming from. My own perception at the time as a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. Looking at these, or in '84 I was only 9, but by the time I was really looking at this stuff,
were you the age they were aimed at? Or were they aimed at adults?
I was a little younger.
Okay.
I'd say they were aiming for your high school to college students.
Okay.
They were this was not a game for 12-year-olds.
Okay.
This has, you got to keep track of a lot of stuff. There's a lot of paperwork. It's not, even today when they've kind of streamlined it, it is not a simple game. It's involved. It takes some time. Once you know what you're doing,
then you're in it and you can run it.
Yeah. You can get very tactical, but when you're learning how to, it has a steep learning curve. You got to do a lot of math on the fly, keep track of stuff.
So if that's the case, and these guys are not novelists, that's the other thing I need to point out.
They,
I'm not.
They hired novelists, but they were not novelists.
Okay, so there's a few things that feed into it, and also, as you just said, the culture at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I look forward to next week,
right.
Or next episode rather. Any previews to that, or you just want to leave us with the mystery?
I think I'll just leave you with the mystery a little bit. I will say we're gonna spend some time talking about Japanese Reconstruction after World War II because it's important for this.
Well, hence the giant robots.
Indeed.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, for Geek History of Time, I'm Damian Harmony.
I'm Ed Blaylock, and keep rolling those 20s.